So today I'm going to fit new taillights to my Everest, and I bought these on Alibaba as well. These are entirely LED. I'm not quite sure how to fit them actually. Like I did with the headlights, I'm just going to go along and figure everything out as I go, and I just hope I can get the cables through from the tailgate to the body of the car. I think that will be the biggest challenge. But they're pretty much plug and play, so it can't be too difficult. But let's see how we go. So right now, only this section of my taillights work. This is the indicator and that is the backup light. These sections over here do not work. So with the replaced taillights, I'm actually going to have this entire section will be filled with taillight as well as brake light. These lights actually double as tail light and brake lights, so they just go brighter when you hit the brake pedal, and then obviously the indicator and then the reverse light. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to have a sweeping indicator, and this section of the indicator will also dual as the reverse light. The first thing we need to do is get this thing off, and we unclip it. So I'm just using a standard trim tool to remove the handle cover, and that plugs in with plastic plugs as well. Oh, wow, okay, this thing looks loose, and I see the screw is actually loose, so not quite sure what that's about. This section is actually supposed to be screwed in, and here are the screws, but for some reason on mine these screws were not tightened. That's what they look like. So ordinary screwdriver will take these out, they're not very long, and yeah, it's going to make some awful noises, but you just got to prod and pry as much as you can to get it off. These clips actually go in that way, over there, so you've got to pull away from the car in order to get that out. I want to do the interior, the lights that fit on here first, and then do the outside lights, because those are easy to do. I think the most difficult part is running the cable through these rubber grommets up here, and I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. Okay, so we're going to try and pull those out. Now it sounds like you're braking your car, but you're not. It's quite a big cover to have to take off. I'm just going to try and get this one off. So you can take the whole thing off with this part. I see this is actually unclipped here, so I'm just going to clip that back in. There's a clip over there which slides in, and then these clips, as I showed you, they actually go into the side of the tailgate, and then like I showed you, or like I said to you, these are equivalent to the door card clips that you find. And there you can see where they all sit, in case you need to remove yours. This is the old taillight. I've undone the two little nuts. That's what they look like. Just make sure, I just want to show you, just keep in mind you will be working upside down, so one goes in there and the other one goes down there, and just be careful when you're removing them. When you get them to the last bit of the thread, use your fingers to undo them and catch them, because if they fall in here and they go to the corner there, you can get your hand in here. So it's probably not the end of the world, but I just don't like losing screws or nuts or bolts inside something like this, because if you can't get it, it will make a hell of a noise. But here's the old tail light. Here's a new one. So you can see the difference between the two. Here we have no fitting for a bulb because everything is LED. So that's where the one screw went and that's where the other screw went. Now you don't get these little nuts with these, with the new headlight. You have to reuse your old ones. So just don't lose these. I don't have spare ones of these, so I don't know what I'd do if I lost them. But this plug is just simply going to plug into this plug over here. And then these two wires are going to plug into the wires that they supply. These are the cables they supply that you're going to plug into the taillight. Now you're going to have to pull your rubber away, and I think this rubber is actually glued, so you're going to have to do that in order to get it through here. I've got the plug plugged in here now for the reverse light, and then here are my two wires which need to be connected to the loom that they supplied. Plug the long wiring harness that they supplied in, and something you must just be careful of, make sure that when you're plugging the wiring harness into the tail light, that the pin for the red, because there's only one pin on this plug, make sure it's lining up with where the red wire on the tail light is actually sitting. On the other plug, I've just made sure that I line up blue with blue, yellow with yellow, and black with black. So as you can see, I've cable tied it loosely to that wire running around there. And what I recommend is never, you're going to need cable ties for this job, so make sure you get some. I'm just using, they're about that long, medium-sized cable ties, but make sure you do have some when you tackle this. And never tighten a cable tie while you are busy running cables. Once you're sure that everything's working and you're happy with the whole setup, then go around and button all your cable ties up and clip the ends off. But in my experience, once a cable tie is on, it's very difficult to get it off again. So that's why I just leave mine loosely here for now. And I'm now going to run my cable through here and then get it through the grommet. Now in order to run this cable through that grommet at the top, I'm using a very, very long cable tie. Tape around this cable tie. This is the grommet. I've pulled it down using both my thumbs and just prying on it like that with your two thumbs. You can get it off. Pretty dirty, but I'm going to be running the cable through the top, which I'm going to do right now, and then with the cable tie, and I can see my cable tie there, right. So I've now got the wire through that hole, and you can pull all the slack of the wire through, because you really don't need any excess up here. You don't want any excess up here. That's probably where it would rattle the most. So I'm going to keep the wire as taut as I possibly can, and I want to just twist it so that it's, or untwist it, because it's pretty twisted right now. Now I tried pulling this wire through this grommet, but there is no space in this thing. So the only way to do that is to undo the plugs, and all I did is I had a test light which was sharp enough to get into the plug and squish the little hooks that hook these things in place, and I pulled the wires out. So I'm just going to bunch them together, tie them to the cable tie, and pull the cable tie through, and then I've got all my wires through. So I just want to show you guys, I've just pulled the cable through this grommet from this side into this side here. Here's my cable tie. Now because the cable tie has this big piece at the end, it tends to get stuck in there. So when you get to this part here, just relax the rubber like it is now, and you can pull the cable tie down. If you bend the rubber so that the hole is kind of straight, so that you've got a straight line, it gets stuck here. And I found that the easiest part, or the easiest port of entry, was actually going in at the bottom over there, and not at the top. So going in at the bottom, it's easier to actually get the wire out. If you go in at the top, it's probably going to be difficult to get the wire out on this side. I'm just going to pull the cable through now and then get it in there, and then I can get in under the rubber over here and pull it all the way through down there. So when you get the wire in there, take a look inside here and you'll see there's just one little hole that comes through. The rest is just filled with metal. So there's only one little hole that you can actually get your cable through, which is directly under this hole, okay? And then you can pull your cable through to get it into this part of the car. And I just want to make sure that this cable is not too twisted. Okay, so I can now clip this rubber grommet back in and the cable is all done. But until you're done, do not disconnect your cable tie. This cable tie is going to help you, okay? Because remember, we've taken the plugs off. There, the plugs are there. And I will put them back later. But first I'm going to try and run the cable through down here. And I'm not quite sure how to get it into this cavity over here. Right, so I'm just going to unclip this from the body. To do this, so it's actually easier if you go from this side instead of from this side. So I'm just going to undo the taillight. We've got two bolts over here, and then I think it unclips. So I've undone the one down there, and I'm just undoing the one at the top. There's a clip over there that you need to unhook. Okay, and it'll come out. Okay, so here's our wiring harness. We just unplug that. It's very, very dirty. There are no instructions that come with these taillights, so you've got to figure it out for yourself. And you can see there's a little piece over here cut out, and that's actually where my cable's coming around. So I think that is going to work quite nicely. I'm just going to get the plugs on now and get this this cable tie off and get the plugs on, and then I can hopefully test this taillight and see if it works. I plugged the big plug from the taillight into the car's big plug, and then I've reconnected my little plugs that I took off. Blue on blue, yellow on yellow, black on black, just make sure they're lining up. And then the red one is on the right hand side of its plug, so you can see it's coming to the right hand side there, and it comes out the right hand side on that side. So this should theoretically work right now, and I've brought it through there, and I'm not happy with these plugs being exposed the way they are, so I'm gonna be using some electrical tape to protect them and just wrap them up. But I just want to test if they're working and if everything's doing what it should do. And I'm going to just line it up with the car. So everything is lining up quite nicely, and as you can see, there's enough space for this cable to get through the bodywork of the car and behind. So that's really not a problem. And it's going to be covered with a cover anyway, so it's not going to be a problem. I just want to put one of these bolts in so that the taillight doesn't fall out, because with my luck, that would happen. So I'm just going to do that for now and give it a test. So I've got the taillights on now, and they are working. I mean, it's very bright out right now, so the taillight doesn't look very bright. I suppose a test would be when the sun goes down. It's when you need your taillights the most. So I'm going to button this all up and get working on the other side, and then I'll show you guys some shots of the taillights working and what they look like when it's a little darker. So I just want to show you guys a view of what it looks like compared to the old ones. So old one, new one. And I haven't closed my trunk completely, so it doesn't quite line up because my trunk rubber is still loose, so I don't want to damage that. But I think it looks way better than it makes quite a statement. It looks way better than the stock taillight. So just before I button this one up, I just want to show you guys, I put electrical tape all the way from this cable where the plugs are, and I've covered all the plugs because these plugs are going to sit in this area where water and dust gets in, and we don't want that. And this plug over here, I've taped it up as well, all the way from the plug to where that section is where this conduit ends, because you can actually see the wires there. So I've just made sure I've actually double covered it to make sure that no water can get in there. So just keep that in mind. They have a very good plug there. They got some stuff in there where the wires come out, so I don't think we're going to have any problems with water getting in there. But it would help to put a little bit of Vaseline on there so that water will be deflected should any water or moisture try and form there. Okay, so I just want to give you guys a tip. That one was relatively easy compared to this side. This one has the pipe for the windshield washer at the rear. And because you've got rubber and rubber and rubber, this electric wire that Ali Baba gave you, this electric wire just does not want to pull through. So what you got to do is just take some Vaseline and put it on this entire cable, and it'll just sail right through like butter. They're on the car, and I'll show you guys some shots a little bit later when it's dark or darker. But right now I do need a break. This job took me a little bit more time than I actually thought it would, but I think it definitely does look nicer. And yeah, I'll show you guys what it looks like in a sec. It's a little darker now. The sun has gone down, even though it's still light in the sky. But I'm just going to show you guys what the taillights look like. And I actually thought that one looked a little dim in the daylight, but I think it's because a lot of the light was coming from that side and the walls there, so there was a little bit darker shadows on that side. But they actually look quite even to me now that I'm looking at them from this perspective. Just turn them on again, and I'm going to get my tripod and just put the taillights on so I can do the reverse light, indicators and brake.